We are back. Senators, Twins, baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Have a bit of an announcement to make before I introduce the hosts. We're going to be joined next week by David Hubler, who's going to join us kind of full time. And
Great.
Quite an addition. David and George have been friends for a long time, and I'm loving that idea. So let me introduce the three of us, three of you guys who are here. Ronnie Rabinovitz, how are you, Ronnie?
Hi, Ralph.
And congratulations on not only the Twins, but the Dodgers.
Thank you. Thank you.
You zoomed into the playoff after kind of a shaky streak. After streaking all year on the good part, they snapped out of it, and they look pretty good. And of course, the Twins. What a miracle! Chad
What a
Rubin
miracle!
Will elaborate on that. What a year, huh, Chad?
It's been incredible. And, the scary thing is they keep getting better. And if you told me they won the World Series this year, it would not shock me at this point. They just seem to come up with a big base hit right now.
Well, when you streak is very important, and they're streaking at just a good time of the year. And we'll go from there in a few moments. But how about George Case III, son of George Case Jr., great senator outfielder in the 30s and 40s. How are you this morning, George?
Yeah, I'm just fine, thank you. I look forward to speaking with everybody.
Well, let's start with you then, because we want to talk about what has proven to be one of they've had basketball scandals every 10 years, so you couldn't shock anybody till now. This is a shoe scandal that really is your bailiwick. You were in that business for a lot of years, and you saw it grow from, just you were in competition. You were with Keds in competition with Converse and Adidas and doing stuff to attract attention. You have a great story with Henry Bibby, who has appeared on this show before and will be back. Refresh the audience. What happened with Henry and UCLA? What is it? 40 years ago already.
Yes, it was. It was a long time ago, and Henry actually, when Henry was on the show a couple of weeks ago, he remembered it. So it wasn't just something that I had done and was sort of making it up. It actually happened,
no.
and the way it happened was John Wooden was in the midst of all those championship years at UCLA, and I had just started an athletic group with Pro Kids back then. And I was trying to get some exposure for a new basketball shoe. So I happened to write a letter to Coach Wooden and ask him if he'd give me the size of one of his players. I'd like him to try our shoe. And it just so happened it was Henry Bibby. So Mr. Wooden, Coach Wooden, wrote back to me with Henry's size. I sent it to him. 2 weeks later, he's on the cover.
Whoa, what happened?
Protests, and Henry told me at the time that he had worn our shoes all during his career in the NBA.
Nice, good feeling for you. How'd you get involved with Keds originally?
Well, originally I was fortunate because my dad had been, as we had mentioned, he had been a Major League ball player. I didn't have quite the skill level. I could play. I was a good player, but whether or not I was going to be a Major League player, I sorted out. So I wanted to get a position in the sporting goods, athletic footwear business that I grew up in. My dad had a sporting goods store after he retired. I knew the business. I knew sports, and it just so happened that I was able to get a position with kids at the time. They were looking to break into the athletic footwear market. So I competed, the company competed against Converse back then. That was our major competition. Adidas had started in a leather basketball shoe, and Puma had come out with a basketball shoe. But there were basically four shoe companies competing in that marketplace, and Pro Kids was one of them. So, I was able to, grow the business a little bit, and it turned out to be a very nice career for me in the athletic footwear business.
Great.
Nice. Anybody you'd like to thank for getting you into that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Ralph, because, people I knew, would always say to me, geez, how'd you ever do that? Well, I guess, I just, had the right connections because I met some people, remembered my dad. It sort of opened the door for me and let me, interview and impress, I guess, people with my background and knowledge. And so it worked out. But there were quite a few people along the way, but it was based upon, I think, the relationships and the knowledge of my dad's name and baseball that helped me because, at one point, being the son of George Case was a little difficult, but when it came to business, being the son of George Case as a potential businessman, certainly helped because I found when I started, it was rather ironic. I would go in and start to talk to people about the athletic shoe business and Pro Kids, and the first thing they really wanted to talk to me about was baseball. And so I had a lot of baseball conversations before I even got into the business side of it.
Well, but you knew other athletes, too, on your own, not just your dad's. I mean, you grew up with Al Downing, for instance.
Well, I did. Al and I just happened to play basketball, high school basketball and baseball against one another. So, Al and I were very good friends from the time we were in high school. And then when I was at Rutgers, I was a fraternity brother of Jeff Torborg, and Jeff went on to, play with the Dodgers and the Angels and caught Sandy Koufax's perfect game, managed 5 different major league teams. So, I had, and then, a lot of people, Ted Williams I knew when I was a little boy, and the fact is that baseball had been part of my life from my earliest days. So, I had a very strong athletic background and was able to combine that background with a business career in the athletic shoe business.
You're articulate and well-spoken and polite and all of those good things, George.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Makes for a great athletic shoe salesman and a great podcaster as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And the one thing I wanted to mention, Ralph and Ronnie,
I'm not saying that lightly. You really have a flair for
No.
this.
You're terrific.
Well, you know what? It's funny because, a long time ago, Ralph, if you and Ronnie would remember, we had Bob Segrin on. And Bob, had been Olympic gold medalist in I think it was 1968 Olympics. Well, when we're talking about the athletic footwear business, that's where it really all began, was in 1968. And Puma and Adidas were vying for, all the track stars and the great names in track around the world to wear their products. So with what's happened with the athletic shoe business now is really the roots of it go back as far as 1968.
Huh.
Now, was all of this pretty much under the table, George? I mean, not in a bad way. It wasn't illegal to be selling the shoes.
No, it wasn't, Ralph. It wasn't under the table. It was a lot of it is what in the athletic footwear business is really known as guerrilla marketing. And what that means is that, when you look at the Super Bowl or the Final Four or whatever it is, you see companies that are spending millions and millions of dollars on advertising. Well, the athletic footwear companies and the apparel companies, they never had those kind of budgets. But what they did have was product. And so when they were placing their product on the feet of the NBA players or the college players or the high school players or the apparel companies were with the uniforms, and you'd see the Nike swoosh or you'd see the Under Armour logo, that kind of thing. That's what the companies were doing, and the kids, not so much the adults, but the kids all knew what players were wearing what shoes. And the whole theory is that when you expose the product in the athletic footwear marketplace, whether it be in the NBA, college, high school, whatever, those kids who were influenced by what they saw being worn would then go into the sporting goods stores and ask for the product. That's what's known as guerrilla marketing.
Now, that's how it started. Tell us how it got to the point today that there's a scandal behind it all.
Right.
And big-time coaches being fired, FBI.
Yeah, there is. And you know, when you look, Ralph, when you mentioned, and Ronnie and Chad, you mentioned the scandal. The scandal really just broke a couple days ago when it came out that Adidas had been funneling $100,000 or more to several people to influence high school basketball players by giving the money to their families to influence that youngster's decision to attend what's known as, say, an Adidas school, which in this case
now that doesn't make
Louisville.
Adidas criminal. It makes the folks accepting the money against NCAA regulations criminal.
They had channeled what Adidas had done. From what I read, I mean, I only know what I read. Adidas had channeled, $100,000 for this purpose, and maybe it was under a category of promotional expense or advertising expense. I don't know, but the fact is that that money was being offered as really a bribe to these coaches, assistant coaches, to influence the decision of a kid to go to that particular school. And as it turned out, it cost Rick Pitino his job as the basketball coach at Louisville, and Tom Jurek, the athletic director at Louisville, it cost him his job. And I just read the other day that the prime recruit that they were going after with this so-called, whether it be bribe money or whatever, this young man, a high school player, has now been told by Louisville that his potential scholarship has been rescinded, and Louisville is not interested in him attending the school.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's a real big impact, because what those schools are trying to do, they're trying to get these marquee players, whether it be Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, Converse, whatever, they're trying to get them to attend the school, because the theory is that you get these great players, they're going to wind up playing 1 or 2 years before they go into the NBA, but they will lead that particular school to the Final Four, which is a huge moneymaker for the NCAA.
Right. Well, it almost seems
so
like
who's guilty
basketball is semi-pro.
Yeah, I think, Ronnie, when you ask about who's guilty, I think the system is guilty. I think this has been going on for so long.
The system,
and,
sure.
My personal opinion, this is the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be more that's going to come out, because now you have the FBI involved. It becomes really a criminal investigation. And they have arrested the director of worldwide marketing for Adidas. They've arrested him along with 10 others. So this isn't just speculation or an investigation.
No.
This is actually
a big deal.
A criminal complaint, right?
Yeah.
Well, what is the complaint against Adidas? They throw their money around, but it's not against the law for them to give the money, is it?
Not to give the money to a college player, but certainly to give the money to, not a college player, a college program, but not to a high school basketball player.
Oh, Adidas was making the check out to the high school basketball player.
Kids are amateurs.
It's a big scandal.
It is a scandal, and the college kids, they're not getting the benefit of the money. The programs are getting the money. So I think Adidas, from what I had read, Louisville had just signed a $160 million 5-year contract with Adidas for all the apparel, shoes, and product that could be used by the University of Louisville, all their teams. I mean, that's a major investment on the part of Adidas, all legal, no problem. They had the deep pockets, they can do it. But to be paying somebody to influence the decision of a high school kid, that is scandalous, and that is a criminal problem.
Anybody that you knew involved that you knew back in the day when you worked?
Well, when I can tell you that I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people from various companies that was so much, smaller, and the money was just so little. There was no scandal involved. I mean, that was just what you did, and you competed.
No, but I mean, people who are involved in it today. Did you work?
No. There's a totally different group of people because today, I've been away from the athletic footwear business for 15 years, so there's a whole new group of people. Now, some of the coaches, like Rick Pitino, I knew of him when he was a young and upcoming assistant basketball coach. So there's some of that. You find the people that I knew back then, but no one in particular that's been named in this particular instance.
Pitino had another scandal in his
Yes, he did. I don't even want to talk about that, but yes, he did.
He did?
It didn't involve basketball. Let me just put it that way.
Okay. Well, then let's not talk about that.
Right.
Okay.
At my little heart beating, it's early in the morning in California. That's right.
Did you know Rick Majerus?
Yeah, I do. I met Rick. Yes, he had been, I believe, Ronnie. He had been the basketball coach at Marquette, I think.
That's right, and then at Utah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And St. Louis University.
Yeah, I met him. I met him when I was in the athletic footwear business, and he was coaching at Marquette, and I also knew quite well Al McGuire. And Al had been the basketball. I'm not sure whether Al was there before or after Majerus, but Al and
Al was there
quite
first.
friendly.
Al was there.
Was
first.
he? Okay, right.
Yeah, and Rick was under. I went to school with Rick.
Oh, did you?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Did he play Ronnie? Did he play basketball? He's a big burly guy. Did he play basketball?
Big burly guy. He played a little bit, but he wasn't that good. But he became a manager for Marquette. And worked his way all the way up to the top.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I was just curious because
Al McGuire loved him.
Yeah. Al McGuire and Dick McGuire, they were basketball players. They were brothers, and they were great athletes. But when I met Rick, one of the first things I thought about was, you just don't. I didn't say it to him. I thought to myself, you just don't look like a basketball
he was a big
player.
Guy.
Right.
Yeah, he was a big man.
George.
Yeah.
The first I heard about competition in baseball for shoes and what have you was when Ricky Henderson and all the A's with the white shoes. I think that was Pony.
Well, what it was, back then, Pony. I had left Pro Kids and I went to Pony, and we had quite a few baseball players wearing our shoes, and that helped me with my background because I was able to contact, and I had a promotions manager with baseball, and I visited players in the clubhouse and that kind of thing. But baseball players and football players, some of the stars are under contract with a shoe company, but the exposure level in baseball and football is not nearly the same as basketball. The kids go and watch an NBA or a college basketball game. They're up close and personal to the players, or there's photographs that are in the newspaper or Sports Illustrated the next week, and they actually, half of them show the shoe product extremely well, and that's where you're really going after. Where with baseball and football, the fans are a little more distant, and the kids are not influenced the same way as they are in basketball.
Well, I'll tell you what changed it, too, was the high five, the Michael Jordan high flyer.
Right. Air Jordan. What that was, Ralph, Michael Jordan came out of North Carolina, very well-spoken, great talent, and just happened to have a connection with Nike, and the marketing department at Nike had been developing very strong relationships with a lot of players and coaches. Michael came along, tremendous opportunity for Nike, so they developed a whole line of a product called Air Jordan. And it became, the kids were just, they were buying basketball shoes, believe it or not, that are $200 shoes because Michael Jordan wore them in the NBA. And that's the way the marketing
in the inner
works.
cities, kids were getting robbed, beaten up over their shoes at school.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, they were.
Sure.
it's become
Absolutely.
a societal thing more than anything,
right?
Where you could not have lunch money, but your feet look good.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And where you and I, Ralph, you and I had talked off the show a couple of weeks ago. But when I started in the athletic footwear business, basically basketball shoes were made by Pro Kids and Converse. They were canvas basketball shoes, and then they started to wear leather
whatsoever.
Right, and then the dealers came in with a leather, and then Converse then developed the Dr. J, which is their leather. We came in with a suede leather basketball shoe. Puma came in with a Puma Clyde, which was a suede basketball shoe. So the footwear had changed from canvas with no support to very technical leather type basketball shoes, and that's what the kids were buying. And then you had the athletic shoe stores, Athlete's Foot, the Foot Lockers of the world, sporting goods stores that had huge athletic footwear sections. And the athletic footwear companies fought very vigorously against one another to get market share. And what kids were coming in off the street asking for a particular product. It was huge business.
Right. Well, what do you think is going to be the result of this? How will things change in college basketball and AAC?
Well, what I think is going to happen, I don't know, but I think there's going to be more schools involved. I think the NCAA is going to have to crack down. I think there's going to have to be, whether it be starting to pay certain levels of college basketball players or football players. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but it might. If you had to do that, then you would take some of that money that's been under the table, you'd put it on top of the table, and you'd make it so that maybe there wouldn't be a future scandal. But right now, if they really get into it, I'm just saying this as a layman, I think you're going to find more and more colleges involved.
Absolutely. They're going to, there's so much money going under the table for all of these. It's not even amateur sports anymore.
Well, no, it's not, Ronnie. And Ronnie,
really
when you're
not.
looking at what we won't get into the discussion, but when you look at the Olympics, originally the Olympics supposedly, were amateur. Well, they're not amateur today. I can tell you that for sure.
No, that's right. That's right.
Well, the track and field scandals came along with the PEDs and what have you, and that went all through the 80s and 90s. Has it ever been totally clean? You played, Division I basketball.
Right. Well, I did, Ralph. And you know what? I don't think I say ever been clean. Just before I became a college basketball player. Yeah, when I was playing college basketball and then high school basketball, the first point shaving scandals that I remember dated back into the early 50s. And I think that was University of Kentucky. There's been scandals in college basketball for a long time.
Well, I think this might open the door to
Kentucky, that's where Patino got his start coaching. And, his scandals were different, but that was at the University of Kentucky. Yeah. And interesting that he went across the Bay. It was like Leo DeRocha going from the Dodgers to the Giants.
To the Giants, right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, point shaving scandals and the Chicago Black Sox in 1919. There's been scandals throughout sports. But my fear and my concern is that it is now reaching down into the high schools, and to me that is just that's uncharted territory. And if you open the door and the Pandora's box, and all of a sudden the genie's out, all hell's going to break loose. So I think that the NCAA is going to have to get involved real quick to put a stop to this.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. That's right.
Hey,
I think it's going to open up all kinds of cans of worms.
Time to talk a little Twins. I want you to guys to analyze the season with the idea that you're going to give us an idea of how they're going to do in the playoffs. So start with you, Ronnie.
Okay. Well, I'm amazed with the Twins. I said all along, if you recall on this show, a long time ago, that this team could end up in the playoffs. And I know there was a time when it was like, it can't be, and nobody expected it. I didn't expect it. But
I remember George teasing you, Ronnie, when you were so excited at the end of the year.
I did.
It's early in the year. It's just wait a minute, wait a while.
That's right. Yeah, I said
it was good natured teasing, but I'm happy for Ronnie and Chad. The way it all turned out, it was great.
Hold on.
I think it's very exciting. Last year at this time they were 58-103, 103 losses.
Wow.
And this year they're 84-77. It's a huge, huge difference.
Huge difference.
It's like a 26-game swing.
Yeah, but you want to know where the difference really is this year? It's been in the second half. They seem to be a totally different team the last, I want to say, 30 to 45 days. They are playing good baseball. Their biggest problem is they can't beat the Yankees, and that's who they have to open up to.
Right.
Yeah, you know what, Ronnie and Chad, I wanted to ask you that. What is the situation been for the Twins against the Yankees over the course of the year?
It's been bad.
Yeah. Because this wild card is just one game, right? They play them just one game.
One game.
Yankees at Yankee Stadium, I believe, right?
At Yankee Stadium on Tuesday night.
This coming Tuesday.
Santana against Luis Severino.
Servino.
Who
had been streaky for most of his career and has really settled down this year. Severino. So
it'll be interesting. And then, of course, Arizona and Colorado have a one-game playoff in Arizona. And it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Okay, because the current Washington Senators are still the Washington Senators, let's face it. We don't talk about them, very often at all, really. Franchise that came from Montreal, they won going away.
Yeah, they did. The Washington Nationals, and that's one thing that I want. Some people confuse the Washington
I still
Senators.
call them Senators.
And the fact that the Washington Senators, when my dad played for many years, had two nicknames. They were the Washington Nationals and the Washington Senators. And the Washington Nationals today are the Washington Nationals who had been the Montreal Expos in the National League. My dad played for the Washington Senators, Washington Nationals in the American League. Two different franchises.
Coached with the expansion Washington Senators.
He coached for the expansion Washington Senators, and he also coached for the Minnesota Twins. So his connection to Washington and Minnesota was through his affiliation in the American League, where the current Washington Nationals, who ran away with the NL East, are in the National League.
Yeah, they have a 20-game lead. 20-game lead right now over Miami.
Right.
Whoa. That, who'd have thunk?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bryce Harper, is he healthy enough to help them?
I think
as far as I know, Ronnie and Chad, you might know. I'm not following up at the Twins. The Nationals have done well with some great talent. They've had great pitching, they've had great hitting, and a lot of young guys, and they're doing very well. So, I'm very pleased for the success of Washington. But on the other hand, my knowledge is really the American League, rather than the National League. And Nationals Park, that's what it's called, is in Washington, D.C., and the Washington Nationals are a National League team.
Right.
And I think, Ronnie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if the Nationals win, they will be playing the Dodgers, right? In the league.
I think the Dodgers will play I think how it lays out is the Dodgers will play the winner of Colorado and Arizona.
Right.
And Chicago will play Washington.
Right. And if Washington beats Chicago and L.A. wins, then Washington and
they go head to head.
Play. Right.
That's
okay.
right.
Yep.
Right. And in the American League, Boston will play Houston, and the winner of the Twins in New York will play Cleveland.
Right. Okay.
So,
speaking of getting hard to get used to, Houston is an American League team after all these years.
That's right.
Yeah,
after all
I
these
know.
years. And they've had an amazing season too.
I watched
the differences in leagues are minute anymore, other than the DH.
Right.
And let me go around the horn a little bit, if you'll excuse the baseball pun. You guys like the DH? Would you like it to continue? I think it's going to be, scarily enough, I think it's going to be in both leagues within 5 years. Do you agree?
Really? Okay. I don't particularly care for it. I think that there's a lot more strategy when you have a pitcher having to bat, or you have to take him out, to have a pinch hitter. The thing that I do like about it is it gives one of the older players an opportunity to be a DH. He doesn't have to play every day. I mean, in the field.
Right.
So, but I think there's a lot more strategy in the National League because of the not having a DH. But that's my own opinion.
Chad.
I agree with you, Ronnie, that it's a lot more fun to watch a National League game, especially the playoffs, than it is an American League game. But, the DH has been around ever since I've been basically born. So for some of us, we're just used to it, and the union's never going to get rid of that job. It pays too much, and they're not going to sacrifice that.
Okay. Let me ask George, should a player like Big Papi or Edgar Martinez, who spent the majority of their career as DHs, should they be considered for the Hall of Fame because they weren't, quote, complete players?
Well, you know what? I don't know, Ralph. That's a good question. I'm not one. First of all, I happen to agree with both Ronnie and Chad about the DH. I do not like the DH. But what I don't like even more is the fact that you've got a DH in the American League and no DH in the National League. To me, that is wrong. I think that both leagues should be governed by the same rules, there is a totally different strategy when you have a DH in your back pocket like a manager has versus what you have in the National League. Baseball had been played for 100 years with no DH. Then the DH was established, and I agree the DH will not go away. I think, the Players Union would never stand for that because it has provided, extra years for players like you mentioned, like Ortiz and Martinez and those guys. But the fact is that I think at some point, Ralph, it is. The DH is going to go with both leagues. And whether it's going to be 5 years, who knows? I don't have any idea. But my thinking is that baseball has to be played. If I were making the decisions, if I was Manfred or whatever it is with being the commissioner of baseball, I'd say, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have the same rules in both leagues that we've always had. I'm a baseball traditionalist. I don't like the fact that you've got a DH in one league and no DH in the other because I know absolutely that it's a different strategy entirely when you have DH and no DH.
No question about it. Absolutely.
It's also a different game for the DH himself. He's sitting around for 3 innings. It's a mindset thing. Sometimes it's good for a player to take his mind off hitting and get in the field. Some players get in the field, can't take their mind off hitting. Ted Williams is a great example of that.
Ted Williams was a perfect example of that. You're right.
Yeah.
He
used to practice his swing standing in the outfield.
Right. I can still see. I remember seeing clips of him just, in his stance with the glove on.
Yeah.
As if he had the bat in his hand.
Yeah.
Right. But like I say, you got to give credit to those players like Big Papi who can adjust to not playing and to the idle time of sitting around. Some go in the back, get on the stationary bike, in the weight room, this, that, and the other thing. it's a different game than it used to be.
Yes, it is. It is. I think Poppy will get into the Hall of Fame. I really do.
Hey, he's a great player. I absolutely agree.
He's a great
player. I don't know what the
criteria.
I mean,
because before he was engaged. I mean,
right.
But
you know, with the Hall of Fame being so subjective, I mean, you know, you say, okay, certain guys, you know, Pete Rose will never get in, Joe Jackson never get in, blah, blah, blah. And then you get, you know, the steroids and PEDs and all this kind of stuff. So where do you draw the line? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a voter.
He's loved by the media. That's why he's going to get.
Right. Well, now I looked and we're talking about this.
And I think everybody who played should be honored in one way or the other. And it's a museum. You got players in there that have criminal records. Players that have been in jail. It's messed up.
It is messed up. And to me, you know, there are certain players that are overlooked, and how that ever happens. I mean, I get on the soapbox
like Gil Hodges.
about Gil Hodges. I mean, to me, that is absolutely ludicrous that you have a great player like Gil Hodges playing on those great Dodger teams with Campanella and Reese and you know, Jackie and Snyder, and he was just as much of an integral part of those teams as they were.
Absolutely, he was.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. He's on the outside looking in. He's passed away. He's never been honored that he would know. His family certainly would like to have him honored. But, you know, who knows what's going to happen. It's so political.
Well, we had Irene on. She put it
right, we did. Yes.
He's a Hall of Fame human being.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Because he went beyond baseball. I mean, what he did without baseball, I mean, his military career, everything he did, he was terrific there.
Well, he was, Ronnie. You know, just like Jackie. I mean, Jackie Robinson, as you've you know, talked about many times, all the things he did off the field. But Gil Hodges was the same way, a great human being.
That's right. That's right.
I have a question about Gil Hodges, and maybe you guys can answer this. Why won't even the veteran committee put him in the Hall of Fame?
He's been on the ballot, and I think the last time he lost by 1 or 2 votes, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he?
My understanding now it's got to be
we've got to get the Bill Hall on the show sometime to break down the travesty of Gil's trek to the Hall of Fame that just came up short. It was terrible.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, Ted Williams was one of those who played a big role in him not getting in for one reason or another. Maybe you could elaborate on that, Ronnie.
Who, Ted Williams on Gil?
Was it Ted Williams?
I wonder why.
But I had heard that, Ralph.
I'm sorry. It was Earl Weaver. They managed
played a big role in
each other in the '69 World Series, and Weaver was on the Veterans Committee, and there was a big thing about the scuff mark on the ball of Cleon Jones, and Weaver thought the Mets, you know, put it there, and anyway, that was one of the reasons Gil didn't get in.
I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've heard all kinds of stories, and all I know is that if it's you're looking at players, from the fact is that so many players are in there that you say, well, should they be in there or not be in there? But to me, Gil Hodges should certainly be in there, and the Veterans Committee at some point is going to have to own up to it and get him in there.
Absolutely. I don't know why they're not. It's just ridiculous.
I don't know either.
I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't think he shouldn't be in. I mean, everybody says that.
And there are others.
I got news for you. Jackie Robinson just squeaked in. I think you need 75% of the votes. He got 77. He should have been unanimous.
Joe DiMaggio did not get in on his first try. And I think Yogi might have been another one who didn't get in.
That's a totally different era of voting. Yeah, and you can't compare today's voting to that.
Yeah.
Now, all those.
That's true, but there's always been controversy in the voting and who gets in and who doesn't get in. That's not new.
Yeah. Pete Rose.
I have one question. I have one question for Chad and Ronnie, and this came up today, and we're talking about the Hall of Fame. I had a question from somebody about the condition of Rod Carew. Do you guys know specifically, how he's doing? I know I believe he had a heart transplant.
Yes, he did. Kidneys.
He's doing really well. He was.
He's doing very well.
Good. Okay. That answers my question because I wanted to get back to this individual and I really didn't know. So I'm just.
No, he was pretty sick guy.
I mean, he was very sick from what I saw. He could barely, move and get around, and then he was waiting for a heart transplant. I think he had a personal tragedy himself because I think
he did with one of his daughters.
A daughter died.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was a terrible thing. He's such a great guy. I've known Rod for many years.
Let's wish him a happy birthday today as well.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because that's from what I understand, Ralph. You had posted that about, today being Rod Carew's birthday, and that's where this question to me came about his condition. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also posted two covers that he was on. He was on Sports Illustrated cover, and he was on Time magazine cover.
Right. I saw those.
Along with Ted Williams.
Yeah. That's the Sports Illustrated. I saw that cover that you posted.
Is today Ted Williams' birthday too?
No, it isn't. But they post together.
Okay. They were on there together as being the great hitters. Right. I guess they were comparing the hitting ability of Ted Williams and Rod Carew.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Rod Carew was a natural born hitter.
Ted Williams was the greatest left-handed hitter of our time. Let's say.
I'd say so.
Taking nothing away from Rod Carew, but Ted Williams hit.
They were different types of hitters.
Right.
He hit 545 home runs and missed literally 5 years of two separate primes.
Right.
His young prime and his older prime.
Yeah,
and,
amazing. He was one of the best ever. And Rod Carew was
the most interesting
doubles.
Talk about
they were different hitters.
An interesting guy, the war hero stuff, and just the way he carried himself. And he's one of those guys that you just you almost idolize.
Absolutely.
It's hard to do in today's world, but there's a guy that he was something else.
Well, you know what? I just wanted to mention one thing about Ted Williams and the fact that, I had told some stories about meeting Ted Williams, but there is an incident that happened with Ted Williams, and maybe you've heard about it, maybe you didn't hear about it, but in 1946, Lou Boudreau, who was the playing manager of the Indians, first put on the Williams shift. And my dad was in left field at Fenway Park, the only player on the left side of the field in case Williams decided to go the other way. And this was a defensive move that Lou Boudreau made because he had my dad's speed in left field in case Williams went the other way. Well, Ted didn't go the other way. He was so stubborn. He said, I'm not going to adjust my style because they're putting a shift on me. And eventually, they had to do away with the shift because Williams just would hit against it. And the fact is that other people were saying, well, just go to left field, Ted. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. My style, I'm a pull hitter. I'm going to hit to the right side. That's what I am. And I just wanted to mention that because it is an interesting, talk about Ted Williams' greatness as a hitter, that the Williams shift would be developed as early as 1946 to try to defense, Williams' hitting ability.
And that has really been what gave way to the new shifting techniques based on computer input and this, that, and the other thing. You can get a third baseman playing short right field nowadays, and it's not unusual.
Right.
No.
What screws it up is that the traditional way of scoring, like if they hit a fly ball to the third baseman playing in who happens to be standing on the right field line at the time, and it goes into the scorebooks as fly out to 5,
Really?
How are you going to be able to determine where the ball was by reading the scorecard?
You can't.
That's interesting, Ralph. I hadn't even thought about that. That's probably very true.
Right. You can go back to that scorecard 2 weeks later and have no idea what that. You usually go back to a scorecard. It really tells you the flow of the game, but this doesn't.
Right.
And I still think that this new shifting is going to give way to injuries because players are throwing from a different angle. They're catching the ball. It's just the bodies are making moves that they're not used to, and so that may cause injuries. As if
you could be very right.
The sun doesn't cause injuries today. Now, which brings us to giving Dusty Baker credit for two things. First of all, he's managed this. He's been a terrific manager. Not been able to take teams over the top, but he's had like 15 years managing in the National League, and so I got to give him a lot of credit. This is probably the best team he's ever had, and I'm a Mets fan.
He's a terrific manager. Terrific
guy too.
Yeah.
But what made me think of him was that he said the other day that he played for 15 years as well as managed for 15 years, never went on the DL, and didn't even know at that time what an oblique was.
Yeah.
And now there must be 30 guys a year going on the DL for oblique injuries. Yeah. So this new weight.
Why is that, Ralph? Why is that?
Weightlifting, I'm sure. They just.
I think you're right.
That has a lot to do with it.
I agree.
It helps
money,
pure power, but in flexibility, and that's what I really don't understand. A guy like Henry Aaron, Ernie Banks, little skinny guys with big, strong wrists, and be able to turn on the ball, bat speed, and what have you.
Yeah.
Never did understand unless they're looking, and I think they are now. They've developed a game where it's all 3-run home runs. All they're looking for is big power. So whatever flexibility is lost with these mammoth home run hitters, they make up for with just pure power, and they learn to propel the ball, that upper swing now, and the little game is disappearing. That's all.
No,
I have a question.
Right.
Do you think that they have done something to the baseball this year?
Absolutely. I've heard too many reports. The ball's harder to grip. And not only that, the bats are made of these elmwood bats that are stronger, and it's all with the permission of Major League Baseball. Just like with the PEDs.
Oh, without question.
Yeah, they knew what was happening with the PEDs, and they went with the flow for the Bucks. So
why did they go with the aluminum bats in college and then go to wood bats in major leagues?
The expense of it all.
Yeah, I wanted to just step in there on that one subject. That's a sore spot for me. Aluminum bats have come up because of the economy. I mean, the fact is that you can have a team and they buy, high school, college, whatever, the little leagues, they buy 6 bats and that's it. Where if they were using wood bats, like when I played, the expense was huge. And then in college, we'd be breaking bats all the time, and the same thing in the major leagues. But the fact is that it's a dangerous situation with an aluminum bat because the ball comes off an aluminum bat so much faster. And you now have college baseball wooden bat leagues where if a kid has the designs that he wants to be a professional baseball player, he should be playing in a college wooden bat league because in the colleges themselves, he's been used in aluminum. And if you're a hitter, there's a totally different feel when you hit with a wood bat versus when you hit
right.
with an aluminum bat.
And
I would imagine there's a big adjustment there too.
They can judge these players objectively too, because some players are jammed, yet they get a hit because of the aluminum bat. But let me say one thing: there's danger in the wooden bats too. Guys like Steve Yeager, I remember he was hit in the throat with. Had to have that flap with the catcher's flap that gave way to that. There are times bats break and come on. Yeah, so.
No, there's a lot of that, Ralph, and just it was last week where you had an instance in Yankee Stadium. Todd Frazier hit a line drive foul ball and almost killed a young girl. I mean, that's a danger, and there's where I think that the major leagues have got to put the screening all the way around, as far as I'm concerned, because that's always been a danger. I know I've gone to ball games and I'm sitting there in the front row or whatever it is with no screen. I'm saying, man, I know what it's like. If a ball comes back, I'm going to duck if I can, because that's a real weapon coming back at you. Right?
Yeah.
Well, here out in California with the Giants, they made a campaign of it. Bring your glove
with
to
the
game,
screen, with the screen,
that kind of thing.
No,
for years they've been, on TV showing guys making catches, and even in the old days, sign them up. They'd have guy would make a catch a foul ball, and usher would come by with a little facsimile contract, and everybody would stand up and applaud and what have you. And there is too that little disclaimer on the back of a ticket that you buy that says, "Hey, we're not responsible. Anything comes into the stands, bat or ball, you got to duck. You got. I don't know how that would stand up in a court of law if, like in Yankee Stadium last year, teams were advised to increase the netting. Some haven't. Some have only increased part of it, but they want to put it from dugout to dugout. So we'll see what happens with lawsuits and what have you. There's also, too, do you want to pay good money and sit in the front seat and have a net in front of you?
Net in front of you,
Well, you know what? I agree with that, but on the other hand, I've sat where there are nets, and hey, if you want to be a purist and say that's one thing, but it's very, you have to really look closely when you're there. I mean, hey, if you're at some of these skyboxes and you're not even, they're watching the ball games on television. They're not even watching the game.
Exactly. Right.
So, I mean, I've been to a skybox.
They don't show up until four innings into the game, and they leave in the eighth.
I was invited to a luxury box a couple years ago, a Phillies game. I couldn't believe it. I said, I'm going to go out and watch the ball game. And the seats, they said, why are you going to do that? We'll just watch it on television, have something to eat. I said, oh, my God. This isn't the game I grew up in.
Might as well stay home then.
Right.
To watch it on television, right. Hey, Ralph, speaking of the Giants, do you think Bochy will be back?
I don't know. For his sake, I hope not. He's had some heart procedures.
He's a tremendous
hard-living guy, and he really doesn't have much to prove.
He's done it all.
He's done it all. He's going into. I hope they pull the plug on him. I really do, for his own good.
It's a lot of stress.
Lot of stress. Managers, you see it with guys like Francona, who's just wear down.
It's It's a very big, very stressful job. It really is. They were talking in the Minneapolis paper this morning about Molitor praising him for switching Mauer to first base because it's really helped his career. He was getting worn down at the catcher's spot. And, he's really made a big turnaround this year. Done tremendous.
Now, let me ask you guys again. I don't remember. I asked you a few weeks ago. Now with the Mets looking for another manager. It seems that Collins is on his way out. It's already been announced that Wortham, the pitching coach, is on his way out. I don't know why they announced that right at the end of the year like that, and not said any. They're kind of leaving Collins hanging, but it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that he's out. Is Rob Gardenhire healthy these days? And because I think he'd be a terrific manager for the Mets.
What do you think, Chad?
I know he's healthy again finally.
Yeah, I think he is.
I don't know.
And I think he wants to manage again.
It takes a special person to manage in New York. I mean, that's a tough
That's
job.
true, but he was a utility infielder with the Mets, and I think he's beyond that. He's one of those people. He had what 7 years with the Twins?
He had longer than that, I think.
I think it was longer.
Was it really?
I thought it was 10 or 11 years.
I thought so too.
Yeah, good franchise.
But I think he would be a good replacement.
They had Kelly for at least 10 years.
Yeah, Tom Kelly. Right.
So.
I don't know. We'll see. You think Aaron Judge is juicing? Question.
Is he juicing?
Yeah.
Who knows? Are they all juicing? You think Ron is juicing? Who knows? They get caught. They have masks. They cover up. But if you compare era to era rather than players from era playing in the same era, it really doesn't matter. It's the same.
No.
If they're juicing, if everybody is juicing, I'm sure pitchers are juicing too.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. That's right. No question, he'll be the Rookie of the Year, and so will Bellinger. I'm just shocked.
No
I
question.
Think they both will.
That going away.
Yeah.
And none of you guys are from Sacramento. I lived a number of years in Sacramento. Dusty Baker is out of there, and it's a baseball factory. Many players came out of Larry Bowa, Woody Held, all down the line. Hey guys,
what do you think will be the Cy Young Award winners?
Boy, that's a good one. Can't be the Dodgers pitcher. He was hurt too much.
Kershaw?
Kershaw.
Yeah, you don't think? Okay. American League?
Good one. I'm not a predictor of these things. Chad?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
I don't know why Kershaw couldn't win it in the National League still. He has the most wins, best ERA. Still had over 200 strikeouts. I mean, that shows you how bad pitching really is in the league.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that'll be interesting.
It will be. I'm rooting for the Twins on Tuesday.
I am too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be a fly in the wall if the Twins play the Dodgers in the World Series.
Can you imagine?
Back to 1965. In Ronnie's house, he'll be turning on that. What is it? A 60-inch television, Ronnie?
55.
He's got a 72-inch. I've seen it.
Oh, okay. Well,
who does?
We'll see. Ronnie and Chad can be watching it together.
All right.
Well, if the Twins and the Dodgers are in the World Series, I'm a Dodger fan.
That's right. There you go.
And an honest one too, which is better than I like to see both teams win. No, Ronnie says I'm a Dodger fan.
That's right. Tried
too many years doing it.
That's right.
All right, guys.
So Dodger
Thank you very much. George, what a pleasure.
Yeah.
George, always a pleasure. How nice it is to have you back, Chad. This is 2 weeks in a row.
Yep. Thank you.
That's right. We're glad to have you back, Chad.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. Ronnie, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And
Ralph, it's a pleasure too.
We will be back next
David
week.
Hubler will be a good addition.
Our new co-host, David Hubler, who's also going to be sitting in on the Tuesday show, the Vintage Sports show with us, rotating with George and Hal Bach and myself and Al Plumkin, who was going to be here this morning.
I was.
And is under the weather, a little tired today. So we wish him a speedy recovery. Like I
Ralph,
say,
how many shows do you have on now?
You know, it's kind of, I was talking to Tally about this. If you include the fact that Ian Kahanowitz does at least 2 shows a week with his interviewing, I have 15 different offerings on
that's fabulous.
Company's own radio network.
It's fabulous.
Yesterday, for the first time, I posted 4 shows in one day. Which
it keeps you. It's a full-time job.
It is, but it's a labor of love, and I never look at it as work. I look at it.
I know. Well, you're so good at it, believe me.
Well, I wouldn't say it that way, but
I would.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. It is absolutely a kick in the butt, because all I ever did is my only skill as a kid. I just talk sports. What do you do?
Right.
I talk sports. I just can't believe that I get to do this with some of the most interesting people in the world, and you guys are prime examples.
Well, thank you.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my Walter Mitty kind of life. That's how I look at it. Every day's a holiday, and tomorrow is Sunday.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, hey, thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Be well, everybody. We'll see you next week. George, if you can sit in Tuesday, you're welcome. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, if David's going to be on there, sure, I'll be happy to. Yep.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Be well,
Bye,
everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Keep on keeping on. Adios.